spindles. Let's make sure we are actually streaming. Yeah, cool. All right. Cool. Howdy, folks. My name's Dave. I'm just getting things set up there. Just the last second, make sure everything was active and streaming properly. Anyway, thanks for coming by. I hope you had a great day, and I'm getting ready to turn some wood. I want to go back to. Um, I'm going to turn a bowl first, and I want to go back to like basics really, because pretty much everything in turning comes down to beads and coves and straight lines, and that's everything. Oops. Hold on a second. I forgot that was on. Basically, I guess what I'm saying is I go to back to basics often because practice is the secret sauce to all of this. There's no magic pill or shortcut or anything like that. It's just like everything else in life. Experience is what gets you further along, and so you've got to get your hands in. You've got to do the practice, right? So I want to go back. I'm going back to starting all from like brand new, all brand new. So we'll take this guy down here. This is a piece of cherry log. All right, and I cut this sometime before winter. It's still green, and that I want to turn some green wood. But anyway, I'm kind of off a kick on a lot of things. One of them is trying to turn more bowls for empty bowls, but I do go back to turning a bowl every now and then, doing curves, beads and coves, stuff like that, on spindles, because it's good practice. Everything that I do and everything that I create pretty much comes down to it being a bead, a cove, or a straight line, bead cut, straight line, whatever. So let's take a look at this guy. Starting over from scratch, this is as far as I usually process a piece of timber. That's it. If it is a little bit bigger, the swing on this, the most I can get out of this machine is close to 13 and a half inches. It says it's got a 14-inch swing, but it does have a 14-inch swing, but that is not, that's like right down to the ways, and I don't turn anything. I give myself a little bit of leeway, so I'm not, So anything that big, I may cut the corners off. On this one, it's small enough I don't have to worry about that. So I've got it cut, and I want to start looking at what's happening to this piece of wood, this piece of timber. So right off, I've got a split happening there, one there, one that's hidden underneath that stuff. One there, one right there, and one right there. I didn't get that one. There's one right there. That's just on this side. But they are not deep. They are pretty shallow. So it's just started. This is drying really slowly in the garage. It's been cold and the weather's changing a lot, but it's starting to get cold again. Anyway, it's been drying out here in the shop for the winter. So there's a split, there's a split, there's a split, there's a split, there's a split. What's happening is the way that a piece of timber dries is it dries around the pith. And the pith, there's another one right there. Didn't even see that. So I want to mark them all. There's one right there that you can see. Sometimes it depends on the light. But on the pith, the tree will want to squeeze down. It wants to shrink. But the pith won't let it go any further. It can't get through the pith, so it starts to create these splits like this and splitting apart because it's trying to shrink it down into the pith, which means that this diameter has to change, and the only way it can change is if that tree splits open. But all of these splits, which is normal for this piece of wood. Now, if that pith was still in there, these may be a whole lot bigger and a whole lot deeper, because it's been a couple of months it's been in the garage, sitting on a shelf. No, the only heat I have is what's right in this area when I have it heated. So this is dried as I expected it to. I would get some splits here and get some splits on this radius. Did I just see another one? This might be, oh, there it is, there's one, and that might be one, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm catching it now because these splits are still really shallow, and by turning this into a round shape, I will eliminate, in theory, all of those splits, and I don't have to worry about the drying process with the bowl. The reason I cut the log in half in the first place was to take that pith completely out of the equation. It's going to want to dry and shrink this way without the pith, but you'll still get splits and stuff like that in there, but it will want to try to dry this way. This particular split, the pith was close to where this is, so I'm getting a little bit of split there. But again, even though it goes to here, I'm removing a lot of this material, so that split's going to go away too. So I want to see what kind of features I'm dealing with before I ever put it on the lathe. If it has huge fissures and stuff like that, I'm not going to turn it. I do occasionally do hybrid pieces, resin. I still have a project that I'm working on, the grinder. But it's not my norm. I don't do specifically resin pieces just to do resin pieces. I will sometimes, because the wood is just really phenomenal. I'll make a mold and then capture that, but I don't want to have to try to repair all this stuff while I'm going. So I've got all of that looked at. The next thing I got to look at is the bark. Now this bark is on there really, really, really well. It's stuck to this cherry. I have to remove the bark to get to the back here so I can get a good bite with either the drive or the live center, whichever one goes in there. That'll be the live center side. So I can get right down to the timber here. I just took the bark off, but I'm not going to remove the bark before I turn because it's not loose and hanging off and all that. It's really, really tight. It took some good blows to get this off here, what was here off. So I know that bark isn't just going to come flying off as soon as I start spinning it up. So now I'm at the point where I can actually mount this between centers. And I prefer to start between centers because I get to move the piece around to wherever. I want to start on the balance point to eliminate as much vibration at the beginning as possible. Vibration makes the turning experience worse and less controllable, and I want to be able to control as much of this as I can. Really that winds up to be me and my tool control and paying attention, and that is pretty much it. Choosing the right material, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I always check this stuff first. I don't just randomly throw chunks up on on the lathe unless I have it's a fresh green tree and I'm cutting it apart out there and roughing blanks out. That I will do. But I will still set it on the balance point and all that good stuff. I like being able to do that because I can move it wherever I want. There are quite a few people who prefer to cut their blanks on the bandsaw to be round and start that way. And I think that's probably a good way. That's a good way to start, especially for beginners, I suppose. But I, as a beginner, did not start that way. I started this way, and that gives me all the wood. It gives me more material I got to take away, but it does give me the opportunity to balance this thing. And that's what I'm going to do next. I'm not stuck already in a specific plane or shape. I'm not stuck there yet. I still have time. And I want there's a lot of things that go into it. I want my turning experience to be as enjoyable as possible. I don't want to beat myself up. I'm 60 years old, man. I don't want to be, 63 and not be able to turn at the lathe because I've just beat the hell out of myself. I don't want that. And I don't want that for anybody else, so that's why I teach the way I do. I want people to have longevity with their turning. Like, they can go as much as they want or as little as they want, and they're not beating themselves up. Alright, let's move this guy this time. The less you beat yourself up, the more you're actually going to want to do it. I mean, something that you're pursuing that just beats the tar out of you, you're not going to do it that much unless you're into that kind of thing. Which, more power to you, but I'm not into all that. I like my adrenaline too. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think I'm a little bit past. Maybe, I don't know. I'm a man. I could be misinterpreting what happens at 60. I don't know. But I don't want to beat myself up. That's definitely one of the first goals. I don't want to beat myself up, and I want to get rid of as much vibration to start with as possible. The more vibration I can get out of this to start, the faster I can start turning, the faster speed I can actually start using at the beginning, because it won't be off balance. That's not bad. Let's see if I can back this off just a bit more. I'm going to miss that hole. And that's the hole I want. Oh, I slipped out of it. Okay. Which means I lost my balance point. Something kind of funky. Alright. Let's get that hole right there. Oh, come on, back off. There you go. Okay. So that's it right there. I'm at the balance point now. I want to make sure that it's secure in the lathe. I don't want it just squirting right out. And how I do that is if I tighten my tailstock, and I don't use a what do they call those drives? Spur drive. I think I may still have one. I may still own one. But in my experience, turning about half the trees out here in Michigan, spur drive just kind of, if you get hung up, if you get a catch, if for any reason, it doesn't matter, the fibers let go, whatever, that spur drive will bore right into the wood. and you don't have a hold anymore, and you got to keep taking off, cleaning out, panning, all that stuff. With the harder woods, it works okay, and I may still actually own one, but um, I have a robust drive center, and it's basically two concentric circles. Those are the teeth, those two, and tightening the tailstock down, getting that to bite into the timber is what holds it in place. And if I get a catch, or this piece gets hung up on something on a lathe, or for some reason this stops, that can keep turning because it's just those two concentric teeth. It's not going to tear up the lathe. And that's why I really like this drive center. I don't, so I got this. Oh, that's what I'm looking for, my tool rest. Right here. Corner, I got quite a bit of material here on these corners to take off, which I'm okay with. Now you could use a spindle roughing gouge. Well, maybe not so much on this. Yeah, you can. You can actually. What am I saying? Of course you can. You just have to address the tool to the timber a little bit differently than you would with a spindle piece, but you can still turn. You can still turn the outside of a bowl with a spindle roughing gouge, but then you've got to change tools. And my first mentor was Lyle Jameson, and Lyle Jameson was all about the bowl gouge and using the bowl gouge multi-use tool, and he's right. This is a very stout tool, and one of the other things that I learned early on was sharpen often, and I do, but now I've done it a little different. I will sharpen four of my bowl gouges ahead of time, and that way I don't have to stop and go to the grinder. But still, I'm doing this. I'm sharpening often. That's not any different. I'm just not doing it like every time my tool gets dull, I go sharpen it. I've got several to go, and then I sharpen them all at the same time. Okay, so I need to start knocking some corners off and turning this around. Let's see, that light. So I started off, I just turned it on. It is a little bit above 800 RPM. And you see the lathe is not dancing all over the place. Let me switch cameras here and lift that guy up just a bit. So you can see the lathe is not bouncing around because that's balanced. Now I'm standing behind the piece. So anything that comes off here is going to go one way or the other. I'm not going to be in the way because there is bark on it. It is going to come off. I was a little bit further off the tool rest than I would be if I was a beginner, just learning to turn. And it's a reminder for me to tell you that you are, of course, responsible for your own safety. You should work within your skill set. But practice will increase that skill set for you. And now we're starting to see these splits a little bit better, and they get a little bit deeper than I thought. But I'm only going to be working with a bowl within this diameter, because that is the narrowest part of this blank to begin with. So that's only as far as I can go to make this round. I mean, I can cheat a little bit, and I'm going to be knocking this off and all that, but I still have to worry about these splits coming through. So we'll just see how that works. I'm really hogging off. What happened to help me there was that my banjo was not fully tightened down, so I was able to kind of shift it a little bit and not hang off the tool rest so much. But that's not a practice I recommend. Yeah, so where was I with that? Got to worry about these splits. I want to get them out of there. This is still green, and I'm going to turn it and let it change its shape and do what it's going to do. So I want to get rid of these. Now this one is starting to go. I still got a little bit here, but I've got quite a bit to get down to round anyway. So in fact, clears. Whoa! And of course, you should also tighten down your tool rest. But this gives me a good opportunity to double check my height, which is not correct. That right there, that little stop, taking a pretty big shaving off that. That little stop tells me that this side's starting to get a little dull. And that's how I monitor, while I'm doing the cut, I'm stopping, I'm checking the wood, I'm seeing what these features are doing. That's a pretty big one. But I still got quite a bit to go here. We'll see how big this piece actually gets. But as I said before, the really nice thing is I started off on the balance point, so it's not going to be unbalanced at any point now until I make it that way. If I shift it one way or the other, which I can do because it's between centers, I can move it anywhere I want. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift it just a bit because I'm looking at this bark here. And if I draw this line, see, that is the outside of the tree right there. If I draw this line, the outside of the tree, which is right there, is off by 5/16 of an inch. Well, I want to fix that. I want this to be balanced this way as well and this way as well if I can get it there. So since this is further towards the back of the lathe than this is closer to the headstock, I'm going to move this a little closer to the headstock. And I'll take my tailstock back, and I'm only going to move, I got to double every move I make. I've got to double it. So if I move 1/8 of an inch here, it translates to 1/4 inch in diameter on this. I haven't moved it very much. Let's see how close we got. I think it's right on. It's really close. It's less than the 1/16 of an inch. I'm going with that. That looks good. So now this line and this line where the rings meet will be evenly spaced here. The next thing will be this and this, which actually is already centered, I believe. We'll check that out. So I really enjoy the freedom of being able to just go wherever I want to go. There are times that I use blanks, twice turned blanks, or I have a limited amount of a certain kind of wood. Then, of course, yes, I'm going to get that in there, and it's not going to matter if it's off balance, because there's a limited amount of wood to work with, and putting it on the balance would waste away too much of the wood, if that makes any sense, because sometimes the water content in woods isn't always like homogeneous throughout the timber. You'll have many times you'll find in your log or whatever more water on one side than another, and that's just the way it goes. Which is why I like to start between centers on the balance point, because I can eliminate all of that. Wherever I start turning, it's going to be balanced. So now all right, let's see. I don't know. Now I got to look to see whether I'm streaming or not, because I just knocked. I just knocked it, or the computer. Yeah, I don't know. Somehow or another, got some vibration. I think it was the motor shroud was vibrating a little bit against the workbench here, and that was enough. Come on. That was enough to take the computer all the way to the floor. So let's see. And that, of course, unplugged the internet. Okay, so I'm back. Sorry about that, folks. That was not expected. Okay. Let me cover the computer back up. Yeah, basically, that's exactly what happened. Is somehow or another vibration, and I suspect it was the motor shroud was vibrating against one of the shelves that's on the workbench over here, and that scooted the computer off. Thankfully it didn't break. It looks like I'm still streaming, so that's all good. Alright, so we're not attacking the wood, is where I was saying. Right? Not stabbing it, attacking it, trying to jam the tool in there. Going as fast as the tool can cut. I've got my ABC anchor here, and then on my body. You can't see that. So let's try this. So I've got here on my hip, and then this is anchored to the tool rest. Got my bevel set 45 degrees, pointed in the direction that I want to travel, and then it's just introducing it to the wood and letting it cut at the speed it can cut. Try not to go faster than the tool can actually move through the material. Let's move that around. Here I'm working on a pull cut transitioning into a push cut to get this curve. Instead of doing a push cut all the way around, I can't get here. You see my bevel is pointed this way. I can't get there. Now I could take this out of a tool handle, and I could do it that way. I could have a shorter handle, and there's a couple of ways you could do this, but the issue is, and this is an issue that's going to run into a lot, is that the handle might get in the way, or they might bang against each other. So you got to learn how the tools work and how to manipulate them so you can get around that. So getting a lot closer to round. I still got this dude and these guys. A little bit here, but I'm hoping I don't have to take a ton off of here. We'll see. this doesn't really matter. I always want to go with, or try to get the best possible piece out of the timber I can get. So here, my speed is not going to change when I come off the end of the piece. I want to keep that speed the same all the way across the surface as much as I possibly can. And the reason for that is that I won't want to have a bunch of tear out. And let me show you a demonstration. So if I'm going this speed, then hurry up to get off the edge. Now I've got a divot, I've got tear out all along that cut because I changed the speed. All that's torn out now. By going as fast as the tool can cut and keeping that, maintaining a constant speed, I allow the tool to do the job. And that's what I'd rather have. I don't want to, like I say, I talk about it a lot. I don't want to beat the hell out of myself doing this. I really enjoy it. I want it to stay that way. And I wouldn't, and that's kind of my teaching style. I like it to stay that way for everybody. I don't get to control who does what. At least I can show them. A way that doesn't require banging around and taking a lot of the force into your own body. I want all the force of this, or as much as possible, to go right down into the tool rest and into the unit. Not into me. So I'm doing a couple things while I'm working on this. I'm also kind of working on the shape that I want for the rim. I'm going to continue to look. I see, wow, man, those are some big old, I don't know what that's from. There may have been something stuck into the tree at some point. I'm not sure why that's there. That was right underneath the bark. Well, a couple layers underneath the bark, but that's interesting. So that's definitely going to have to go. That one's starting to disappear. Most of them are gone. I've got that one starting to disappear, that one, and that one. And then I got this going on, which I'm not sure why that's there. But that's okay. There's nothing like no metal or anything. I'm not banging around. I see there's nothing in there, so I'm just going to keep turning. It may have been it looks like it was some kind of a staple or something that might have been stuck in a tree at some point. I don't know. It's not discolored. That was all hidden by bark, so I don't know what was, I can only assume something was stuck to the tree for a short period of time. That's just about gone. I'm going to mark these. That's just about gone. I look really close because there's one right there. That one's almost gone because there are some features in the wood that almost look like, and then that one's almost gone. So all the rest of them have disappeared. And this goes deeper than I thought. I wonder what I'll find down there. Maybe there's an insect in there. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, no, I've got that split and this, but this will be coming off anyway, so I got a little bit there. That one I didn't see. But we're still getting rid of this, so these should be coming off pretty quick. Let's take this. So this is what, it doesn't matter if it's green or seasoned wood. This is pretty much how I turn. So when I notice that there's things in there like these splits, I'm going to continue to check. I want to get down to where there are no splits. Once this thing starts to dry, any of those splits are only going to get worse. Usually. Sometimes they will close back up. I don't want them to be there in the first place. I want to give the mold this form as much possibility of survival as I possibly can. And sometimes it turns out that the piece of wood, you get a certain point and it's just, you find out it's not worth turning. And that's it. You just take it off the lathe and move on. This is not one of those times though. Okay, so. Grab that pencil. So I got this guy. There was a couple over here. Looks like they're gone now. Okay, that's good. That's good. So just that guy, and then this. Unless I see, that might be a split. That's not. That looks like that was a failed branchlet, and that does too with poor conclusion. So that's some nice little features. So let's look up here now. I'm going to have to take off at least that much to get rid of the split that comes all the way over here. Maybe even a little bit more. I may have to go a little bit more. So I'm looking at that, and then I'm looking at the rest of this stuff. So I got to go down a little bit more in diameter, and I'm going to go ahead and take care of. Turn it this way so it'll be a little easier to deal with. And I'm going to take it down. I'm just using just some pressure, hardly anything. I want the tool, when you get everything lined up, the tool almost wants to self-feed. Take your time, let the tool do the work. I got a little bit more yet, so this line was actually correct. There's still just a little bit right here. Sharp tools are your friend. So let's erase that. Let's see if I got rid of that. Looks like I did. Okay. So back to working on this. That is an interesting shape. What can I do with that? Can I play with that? I think, well, I gotta get this out of here, so. Stop there because I was getting ready to come off the tool rest, and that's a thing you should not do. If it's avoidable, avoid it. Oh, look at that. I think it got that last split. Okay, we're going to look really close. Okay, there's just a little bit of it. I mean, it's like maybe an eighth of an inch that's left, and this has basically got that too, so I don't have much to take off for either one of those. And there are no other splits I can see. I'm not sure if that might be a split though. But anything down here is pretty much done. Okay, cool. Just except for that and a little bit there. So that'll probably stay. That'll be all right. This is as much rejoicing. So now I got to get rid of these splits. Wrong way, Felden. And I do check my tailstock. Another thing about green wood, well, any wood really, but green wood more so, is that it will compress. So you're going to want to check and make sure everything's still seated properly, because this will loosen up over time because the wood's compressing in. Check that often, especially with green wood. I'm not sure if, I know that's not a ring shake. I've got a little spalting line here and a little spalting line here, but this looks like a bit of a split. But that's the only one there. Oh, and there's just a little bit here too. There's a bark inclusion starting to come through. So I don't have much to take off here on this surface here, so I'm going to just go ahead and start working on the final shape. So how do I want to do this? I mean, that could be fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do, at least this is what's in my head, is I'm going to turn basically this shape, but I want to leave the foot to be hollow. So it won't have, it'll have this thick base and this will go through, but that foot will be hollow on the inside and the bowl will be hollow here. Maybe. Or maybe my other idea was, well, I can't do it now because I don't have enough. Well, I mean, I could do it and make the bowl very, very small. Is to turn a little sphere down here in the area that's not going to be the bowl. But I don't quite. I think another, if I had another inch, I could pull that off. I mean, I could do it here, but this would be a lot smaller, narrower, and I want to try to keep this size. So, what that means is, we'll put a regular kind of base on it. So looking at this bowl, I feel like I gotta tuck this part in a little bit more. And I want to go downhill to the fibers, right? That's why I'm turning the way I am. The fibers are all this way. They're perpendicular to the lathe because we're in bowl orientation. So all the rings would be wrapped this way, and we get to see the ends of the rings because the cylinder is like this. If this was a spindle orientation, then you'd see all the end grain on both ends. That's what this is end grain. But we're working with side grain. So I got to take this down still a little bit more, tuck it in here. Oh, I'm sorry, that's what I was talking about. So since the fibers all are laying this way, the best cut is one that goes downhill to the fibers. I could turn this way, and I could shape all this by going against the grain. But what I'm doing is I'm lifting fibers as I go, so this gets kind of fuzzy. So I want to take the cut downhill to the fibers as much as I possibly can. And how I do that with this is basically I'm doing, well, starting off with a push cut here, transitioning to a pull cut, this into a push cut. Some combination of that. And I can stay down holding fibers the whole trip. Alright, let's see if that disappeared. There's that line of spalting, and there's the other one. So there was a split there, it's gone. There's some other spalting showing up, and oh man, it's not like super bold, but it's there. That is cool. Alright, so all the splits are done. I'm now down to solid wood. Solid wood everywhere. And that's the best starting point that I could think of. So I'm already looking at a pretty decent shape. I want to, with this one, I'm kind of digging a slight inward curve. Lately, nothing like really in your face, but just a little bit of a curve. So the shape continues over. I think that looks really nice, actually. So I need to pick up a cut. So let's do that here. The way that I pick up a cut is I've got to start at a certain spot. So you gauge that bevel. I'm rubbing that bevel. You can see, I think overhead, yes, that no shavings coming over that tool. And I am on that bevel. You cannot cut, you cannot make a cut if you are on the bevel. You have to come off the bevel a little bit and gauge the cutting edge. So that's kind of sort of what folks mean when they say float the bevel. You don't want to rub the bevel to make the cut, because that's what I'm doing right now. And all I'm doing is burnishing the piece, getting that whole bevel. But that's how I locate where my cut is. Get that bevel on the surface, and then I slowly engage the tool until I'm cutting right at that level, and I can carry it through. And I can carry that same depth of cut all the way through, especially since I'm not changing my speed as I come off the edge. So you see this is starting to continue over. I got to tuck this in just a little bit more. So I'm going to take some of this off, I think. Let me think about this. Do I want a foot? Do I want a rounded bowl? Or do I want a footed bowl? Right now, I can carve feet out of this. You know, I'm going to make this a round bottom bowl, I think. I think I've got, no, you know what, no, I need to have a, I'm wishy-washy, so we'll just ignore what I'm saying right now, because I'm not sure which direction I want to go with it. Really? I have options, that's the main takeaway. So I need to tuck this in a little bit more, but I also want to set myself up with a dovetail for the chuck so I can hollow out the form here. So I'm going to tuck this in a little bit more. You know, this might still work out all right as a round bottom bowl. I think I've got just enough to get a nice wide arc for the bottom. I'm gonna try. I like calabash style, right? That's sort of what I'm going for, ish. I like that style. this down some. Leave that shoulder so it can register against the face of the jaws. Pick up that cut. I came out of that cut. I'm rubbing the bevel, not making a cut. Engage the cutting edge. Now I'm making a cut. And if it's possible to see this, I'm not sure. I'm going to, you know what? I got the flashlight right here. So I'm going to do this. Can you see that from that side? Maybe this side. How about this side? Nah, I don't know. I'm going to try this. You might be able to see it right in here. What I want you to look for, you see here, I'm rubbing the bevel, and you can't see any light there. I don't know if this is translating into the camera very well. I sure hope so. Let me raise this up just a bit. There we go. So I don't know that you can see this because I can't tell looking at the computer screen. It's a smaller image for me. But right now I'm rubbing on the bevel. I'm right on the bevel. There's no way that I can make a cut here. And you see there's no gap. Once I engage the cutting edge, see there's a little bit of a gap of light coming through. Just a little bit. I mean, it is a tiny, tiny gap, but it is a gap that is the size of the cutting edge, basically, where I have to kind of rotate to get the cutting edge to engage. And it's, I mean, it's minuscule, but you can see that there is light between the bevel and the material. I really hate, I don't like telling people, yeah, you gotta rub the bevel, you gotta follow the bevel, the bevel is there to help you locate yourself on the piece and to help guide the tool. I want that bevel pointed in the direction, whatever direction that is that I want it to go. I'm following a curved edge here, so even if I start, I'm basically tracing a straight line on a curved surface so it comes out curved. So cutting edge is engaged. I'm not taking much material off. I don't really need to. And that is, okay, a little bit more down here to take out. Here I'm just going to do a little scraping because that's all I really need. That's all good, that's all good. I got a little bit right here. Got the bevel engaged, not making a cut. Rotate the tool into the cut, cutting edge into the cut. And there we go. Follow it all the way up. That was like super fine. That was a really fine cut. But anyway, now I'm at the point where I'm going to do final shaping. I'm going to do a little bit of scraping. I think, let me think about this. I don't know if I want my foot to be smaller. No, you know what? I'm going to leave it. That's fine. We're going to work with that. All right, so scraping. So as I'm scraping, scraping on the bottom wing of the tool. The flute is almost all the way closed. We've got a little bit of gap between the top part of the cutting edge as opposed to the bottom. The bottom is actually making contact. I want that gap so I can see down in there. But this is a very safe, and you'll see that I take my tool out of the handle for these next two cuts, the scrape and the shear scrape, because they're very, very safe cuts to make. You cannot get a catch. At least I haven't seen it happen. I don't want to tell you, in this case, basically the rule of thumb is you don't want both edges to touch. But with a scrape, let's see, if I'm using the bottom edge here, and I touch that top, there's no catch. What it is it's going to leave me a little bit more surface that I'm going to have to clean up. And it's not terrible. So touching both is not a bad thing, but I want to keep that gap on the upper one. I don't want the upper one to touch at the same time because then I'm not getting a good scrape. I need to scrape on the bottom wing of the tool. And because my tool rest is close, all the force that goes down into this scrape onto that bottom wing goes right into here, so I don't need to have a handle. I'm not putting a boatload of pressure against the timber, just enough to get the tool to contact, and I'm even varying that from very, very, very light touch to maybe fingertip pressure touch. It's not much. I feel like I have learned that most of wood turning is finesse. Let the tool, equipment do the work. You're not beating up your body. So that's a scrape. Very safe to make. I don't have a tool in the handle. I'm going to hit this a little bit more. Again, the pressure is not heavy. I could make it heavy if I wanted to, but I'm just trying to clean up the surface. I've already got my basic shape. This is pretty much the final thing. I've got a little bit more to do on the bottom here, but I'm cleaning all this up. I'll take care of this, and then I'm going to do a shear scrape. And trying to knock down the amount of time that I have to spend sanding. I can get a really, really good shear scrape and not sand at all if I choose to. But I want to at least hit this with 220, but I want to take it down there to where it's 220 ready. If it was rough like this, I'd have to start. Let's see, let's get the other camera over here. What do we got here? First time, Jack. FR space, gotcha. Ahoy. Hey, how's it going? Ahoy to you too, sir, or ma'am, as the case may be. It just says Jack. Doesn't mean, I suppose, it's a screen name. Welcome, welcome. Where are you watching from? I'd love to find out. I have found I've got some viewers in Madagascar, and that side of the world. It's kind of interesting, man. All the people that turn to Twitch for entertainment, I guess would be the entertainment and instruction, right? Actually, I really like that. I don't have to take much off of this. I'm just going to scrape it. Really, I'm going to do a push cut. Get it down to, you don't need a handle for this either. I'm taking a very, very, very light cut with the bowl gouge. There we go. And then scraping, of course, is very safe. There's no gap for the tool to fall into. All the force of the turning, all the turning force is going right down into here. That's where I want it to go. I don't want to go in my body. A little bit straight here, and I'm going to move to the shear scrape. Oh, no, just a bit right there. Man! It's alright, man. I'll get it. So yeah, back to the wood turning is mostly finesse. It really is. Don't need, I mean, the physics changes as the piece gets bigger or smaller. Those things change. But the way the tool is addressed to the timber, the way things are mounted, that really doesn't change a whole lot. There's some way to mount it onto the lathe and then a tool to start making the cuts. And the cuts are the same. Doesn't matter how big the piece is or how small, the cuts are the same. And there's four. You know, a push cut. I mean, basically, right? And I actually want to use the terms bevel supported and not bevel supported. A bevel supported cut is the cuts I've just making and was demonstrating to you. A non-bevel supported cut is a scrape and a shear scrape, which I'm going to do the shear scrape next. Still going to be the bottom wing. I'm just going to drop the tool down so I get a really sheer angle to go across the surface of the wood and clean that up. But basically, it's a bevel supported, unbevel supported cut. That's it. There's only two. Used to say there was four: push cut, pull cut, scrape, and shear scrape. But really, there's only two. It's bevel support and none. And there are different reasons for doing those things, but in general, you want to have the bevel supported cut when you're doing shaping and stuff like that. I mean, you know what? I retract that statement. It matters where you're at on the piece and what cut is going to work for what you're trying to do. But bevel support has the steadiest cut to it. The scrape and shear scrape, while being safe cuts, are entirely controlled by me, or the person behind the lathe. And I have to pay attention to all that. Bevel supported cut, that bevel is taking that cut wherever you have it pointed, so it's almost automatic. I want to go right up in there. Now I'm going right. Let's see the camera I'm working on. Okay. So I'm working on the bottom wing still, just like I was on the scraper, but now the tool is turned this way. Still working on that wing. I want to be in the upper third of the wing here. So I got to have this gap open so I can see where that's cutting. And it's just another light touch. Let's see if I can even get, I don't know if you can even see these shavings. They're really, really small. Very, very light touch. It doesn't have to be. I mean, you can vary any cut to be any kind of depth that you want if you can get it to happen. I can start off with a heavier cut and work into a finer and finer, just like these guys. So that's what this is. This real fine shavings is what's coming off here. And that's a shear scrape. Now, if I touch the upper wing, there's not going to be a catch. It's going to push me away. So I'm touching that upper wing, not even touching the bottom. I touch the upper one and done. If I'm touching the bottom and then I touch the upper wing, I'm not going to do anything. It's a shear scrape. It's just going to push me away. So doing this unhandled, for me, I find to be very safe and comfortable. I'm working on this much of the tool basically, which is right over the tool rest. I don't need to have a death grip on it clearly. I'm using fingertips or finger pressure. And a lot of control. Just working at knocking off the high spots. Got a little bit to go right in here. shear scrape and a scrape. In fact, you can go back and forth across the surface because you're not changing the dynamics of the cut by moving the tool. With a bevel supported cut, you don't want to contact the upper wing because that's what's called a catch, and it will catch into the wood, create some issue for you that, while definitely shocking, exciting, I don't want to say scary because, you know, it's exciting. It gets the blood pumping, right? I want to avoid all that. But with a scrape and a shear scrape, it doesn't matter. I still work to not touch both wings to the tool or to the timber or material, whatever it is. In this case, it's cherry timber. But the only reason I'm doing that is it's not for safety. It's because I'm trying to clean up the surface. And if I hit it with the upper edge, now I've got another mark to clean up. Because this is such a safe cut. So now I'm at the point where possibly, if it's dry enough, man, there's all kinds of little spalting things happening in here. That's a neat little, that looks like that was a branchlet that didn't make it. There's bark inclusion. Oh, that's the bottom of that, those little, what I thought might be staple marks. That's discolored right at the bottom of that hole, and that's where that's at. I wonder, I don't know if that was an insect mark or not, but there's all kinds of spalting happening in between the rings here. That's cool. There's another failed branchlet. Yeah, this is very cool. So this stuff here, these little rays, almost, they look very similar to splits, but they're not splits, and it can be sometimes hard to tell with the timber that you're using. I have done that many times over the years, be sanding something because I'm trying to get rid of what I think is a tool mark, and it's not a tool mark, it's a feature in the timber. All right, so I'm going to grab my mask. Let me check with the Kingsley. Hey, sorry, man. I'm lax on watching the chat here. I don't have speech chat. I'm running Zorin Linux on this machine. This is a 2011 laptop, so it is actually moving or working much better with Linux on it than it was the old OS, which was Mac. Let me clean this guy. So I actually was able to breathe some life into this laptop. The only problem is that, like, speech chat and text to speech, it's not really kind of work with Linux yet. They're working on it. It'd be nice if, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. I got to pay attention to the chat until that becomes a feature. Let's see. Chat was paused. So we have, oh, dude, way cool wood. Hey, I did not know. I definitely have to, that's the wrong. There we go. The wrong doggone camera. I'm sitting here looking into the camera. Hey, yeah, here come the cool kids. How's it going? What do we got here? Midnight V _ V says hello. Hello. Doggone it. I'm having trouble with this scrolling the chat. I want to go back now. Because what I just did, apparently, okay, I'm going to close that, is go right to Way Cool Woods chat page. Clicked on his, there we go, his username, and it went right to his page. So let's wait for this to come back up. I'm going to try to catch up with his chat. Wasn't paying attention to it. I don't get to hear the voices anymore. I miss the voices. When I have the other laptop, when I was streaming inside, that I have, it's a Mac, so speech chat works, and I can just let chat go and do its thing. Why is this taking so long? Well, welcome everybody. It's taken quite a while to reload the chat box for some reason. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by, man. It's very, very cool. Very cool. So I'm going to grab my mask here. Still waiting for chat to show up. That is really, now it looks like it's starting to make a difference. Something's coming on the screen for some reason. You know, I've had issues with my internet all day, and I think last night too. I wasn't. I don't really. I didn't. I guess I didn't really. Yeah, things were really slow to load last night, and now they're really slow to load again. Hope you have a great stream going to lurk while shutting down the shop. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And then Jack FR underscore Frost said ahoy, ahoy. And Kingsley, hey, how's it going, man? It's going okay. It's going okay. I had 6 weeks where I wasn't streaming because it was just my heater couldn't keep up with the cold out here. So since the heater didn't keep up, I didn't either. And I didn't turn for like about 6 weeks. I did do some streaming inside, which was nice. Um, but that particular laptop is not one that I want to bring out. That's ready to go for 220, man. Actually, I could probably start at 320 with that, but we'll go with 220. I want to prep my surface as much as I possibly can before I even, when I'm switching tools. Like now I'm switching switching to abrasive. I want to have the surface prepared for whatever tool that I'm going to use. And that's why I like do the scrape and the shear scrape. Let's change the camera again. And yeah, I think that's alright. I'm getting dust everywhere. And it's only going to get worse. Let's cover up the computer again. Alright, so I'm happy with the shape. I've got my slight inward curve, which I like. Now I'm going to see if this is dry enough, the surface of it is dry enough to sand. It looks like it is. So here, at this point where it starts curving down up to the apex, where these two curves meet, on this one, since the fibers, as I said, they are perpendicular to the lathe, so I have to go downhill to the fibers. Well, since this curve is already this way, that's downhill to the fibers. I have to follow that. This curve is also that way, but it's the other direction. So I have to take that to those, and I meet at the apex. So I've got to go two different directions to sand this properly, following the grain of the wood. But only because I have that slight inward curve. And this is not, I'm not pushing really hard against the timber. I am keeping just enough pressure to keep the abrasive engaged so that it will spin. I'm using it as a friction. You know what, I'm going to go back to, I'm actually going to go to 150. Using the wood as the friction source to run this abrasive. I don't need to push the abrasive against the material super hard. Not really going to let it do, the full job it could do anyway. If I'm really jamming it up against the dust has got nowhere to go. And I keep cramming it in. I just want to take my time. So I got a little bit of spot right there, I think, and a little bit there. So I'm going to take another pass, and if that doesn't do it, I'll address those spots separately. Nope, Didn't do it. It could be a feature in the wood, though. Let's see. Well, I'm going to say that was not a feature in the wood. And there was one more right there. Is there any more? That may be it. I don't know. We'll find out. This could be a feature. Some sanding in the direction too. This is turning clockwise. I want to go downhill to the fibers, so I'm sanding with the bottom part because it's pushing this way since it's rotating clockwise. At this point where it's going, the curve is going up the opposite direction, I'm using the top because it's going clockwise and going downhill to the fibers. That would change if this lathe reversed. It does not. And I think I turned off my compressor or something happened. Did I turn it off? I think I did. Yeah. Take long. Nice. Okay. Now back to the 220. Still loving the fact that this lathe is so quiet now. Oh, yeah. That looks really good. Okay. So now I need to finish this guy up. Just holding with my fingertips is almost no pressure. I've had the sand abrasive taken out of my hand on many occasions, and I'm okay with that. It can take it. That means that I'm not getting pulled into the lathe. I don't want to be pulled into the lathe. That would suck. Because the machine does not care how loud I scream. So I tend to hold, when I'm holding things, I tend not to have a death grip on them. I want them to get taken out of my hands if that's going to be a thing. I want it to go. That way I stay on this side, I don't get wrapped up in here. Regardless of how you look at it, rotating piece of machinery with a rotating piece of material on it. And you gotta respect that. If you're wearing loose clothing, tie, long hair, whatever, I mean, you don't want to get pulled into the lathe. That's the bottom line. Okay, so this is done now. I am now going to hit this with, I'm going to put finish on that. Actually, oops, I forgot one thing. I think that's going to be, I think I'm going to say that's going to be my rim. I can actually do this after the fact. Ta-da-da, thinkity think, think. Do I want to? Do I want to do it now? What are the ramifications? If I do it now and I take this rim down, then I'm going to have to redo that. That's not a big deal. Okay. That's all that matters. Don't need to be a big deal. So I'll put my finish on it. Ooh, and I need to slow this guy down some too. So we'll trick the lathe into slowing down. This is a Reeves drive, so like with a VFF, a VDD drive, you can turn the dial and get your digital whatever and all that stuff. This is all the Reeves drive, belt drive, so it's all analog. So this goes a long way. So there's two ways to change the speed of the lathe on a Reeves drive. One of them is to turn it on and turn the dial. The other one is to just turn the spindle. And you can turn it down or up. Now it's turning slower. Buff it in. I can't even tell by the sound of the lathe really if it's changing speed. That just makes me happy that I don't have to listen to that anymore. At least not for a while until the parts wear out. Okay. So, do I have Econe, subscribe with Prime. Thank you very, very much for that. Welcome to the channel and the family, I guess. Thank you. Got a lot of dust on that dude. And a lot of glare from the light above. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Where are you watching from? E-Cone? Okay, so I can cut this off. That's going to be in the way inside the chuck. Oh yeah, that's definitely green. A lot of people might choose to part that off. Everybody has their favorite way of doing something like that. I prefer to cut the tenon off. For one, this is green wood, so everything's being compressed between the centers. So the tool can bind up, parting tool. I will take it down to a smaller tenon and cut it off for that reason with a saw. So I'll get bound up. Put that into there, and I am actually at the point where I can take this mask off for a little bit. So I'm going to do that. We're at 9:30, right? Wow. Well, you know, when you're turning a bowl and explaining every single bit of the process, it takes time. Alright, so I want to change to a chuck. I could just as easily have used a blue block. Several ways to do this. Like this Vic Mark chuck. It is a well-made piece of equipment, I think. And they don't pay me to say that. This is just equipment that I use, and I'm not sponsors of this channel yet. There's room for them to be if they would like to discuss it. I'd be happy to. And thank them for the support as well. But this is just the tools that I use, and I think that this Vic Mark, even though spendy, $400 plus, but it is a well-made chuck, and I don't think that I will probably ever. I don't know the longevity completely, but I don't think I'll ever have to replace it. I think this one's going to last me a while. I started off with, well, I mean, yeah, as a new turner, the prices of things can become kind of daunting. This is not an inexpensive endeavor. The equipment is the lathes. I mean, you can go sky's the limit for price if you want. I started off on a Harbor Freight lathe, a little $200 cheapo lathe, which got me started. It wasn't, it was a 3/8 horse motor, but anyway, it got me started. But I want to try to save some funds everywhere I can, and I don't see the need for. Like when I started, I didn't buy the most expensive chuck ever because, well, for one, when I started and I was using a chuck, I still wasn't completely sold on wood turning. So I bought a medium range chuck, Barracuda chuck, and that lasted a good couple of years. And it was $120, I think. And I think now, and that was in 2016. I think they're selling the upgraded version of that. It's the Barracuda C, I don't know, let's see, 2000 or 3000. Which one's this? CSC 3000C. which oddly enough is the same as this CSC 3000C, except for one very important bit. Jaw number 4 has a pin in it, and there's a groove in the jaws. That groove and that pin are different. They've been updated, and they're slightly different size and placement than the other chucks, so I can't swap jaws between them. But they came with 3 sets of jaws, this size, the pin jaws, and then a larger set. So I can have 2 of this same chuck with different style jaws on it, which really helps out. And it's not that much money, but these don't last long. This guy, though, has been around for a while. I'd have to look at the paperwork, but I'm pretty sure I've had this guy now so far 6 years, 7 years. And it is as solid as when I bought it. It is a good chuck. Whoops. We don't want that. Alright, so I want to get my tailstock as close to the piece as I can get it every time, because the longer this quill is out, the more it can vibrate and flex, putting vibration into the turning, and I don't want that. Tailstock up there because I'm really hogging this stuff off, and even though I'm pushing toward the headstock, I just wanted to have a little bit of extra support. There, I'm just pulling the tool with these 2 fingers. I mean, these are not the strongest fingers in everybody's hands. So I'm just keep talking about saving your body, not beating yourself up, working with the tool, and just working with what the tool can do, and things I've learned about that on the way over the last couple of years. Mav K14 shows up. Yay! You're on a 5-stream streak, dude. I did not know that. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Captain OB. Hey, how's it going, man? How's it going? You still, dude. Let me clean your eyeball there. You gotta start streaming, man, so we can stream together. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. Alright, so I'm done with that bit. There's a couple of ways to approach this. But I'm working in a chuck. Let's get this guy. So I don't want to have tons of force pushing sideways, because I'm in a chuck. So what I want to do is I want to take this down in basically a stair-step kind of pattern. I can do, a lot of people will just keep doing this and making a bowl shape, and that kind of works with like seasoned wood. I mean, even so, with seasoned wood, you can still get flexion in the wood. It's the difference in the thickness of the wall as you're going through, and I want to work with an even wall thickness all the way through this, so that flexion, I don't have to deal with it, or I have to deal with it very, very little. That's my favorite way, is to not deal with any of it, but sometimes you're going to get a little flexion, depending on, especially the thinner you go. But some woods are also just bend and flex these. Man, I love the way cherry turns. I want to get my wall thickness set back here. See where it's at. It's not doing me any good. And then I'll work this wall thickness all the way around, and I don't ever have to worry about having to come back and fix something and hope that, you know, it's not going to flex on me. Because when it flexes, you get uneven cuts. You get it's no longer round, so you're going to get, like, as it flexes, say, it's going to flex this way because the pith runs this way. Let's just say that. It wants to dry, and it wants to dry in this direction too. Let's say it wants to flex that way. Well, this might be, it might oval the cutout, basically. You'll get kind of an oval cut and a really thin wall and then a thick wall and a thin wall and then a thick wall. I don't want to deal with that. And if you take your cut from the top to the bottom, you will eventually get that flexion because you have to keep working the whole thing at once. And when you get a certain thickness here and you get down to here with that thickness, this might want to start to flex, and depending on the wood. So if you're not down to your final thickness, you're kind of out of luck because the wood is flexing too much. So I work in stair step and in a stage a lot of times in a green bowl, and I'll do it in a seasoned bowl too. It just depends on the wood and what I'm trying to do. I want to get to a point that I like the wall thickness, and then I'll carry that down. I want to clean this up. Rubbing the bevel, not making a cut. Got to engage the cutting edge. Slightly rotate the tool. If you could see it, and you might be able to, well, not with that camera because it's not overhead. There's a gap back here. It's very, very small, but it's still a gap. I'm not rubbing. If all I do is rub that bevel, I cannot make a cut. I have to engage the cutting edge, and that means tipping the tool forward just a little bit. I think I'm going to go maybe with that. I got a little bit more to take off to make that even, but that's the thickness I'm going for. Yep, that's it right there. And where's it at? Where you at, buddy? I can look down these calipers and I nailed it. That's right on. Now I can move back. I don't have to worry about this surface anymore. It's done. And even if that flexes while I'm cutting down here, I don't have to worry about it because I'm not going back. Spalted wood in there, that's cool. Alright, let's bring this guy in a little bit more. I want to keep the distance between the tool rest and the surface that I'm cutting on as small as possible, as short as possible. I don't want to hang off the tool rest any more than I have to. You will notice that I'm using a bowl gouge that is getting close to the end of its life. That's limiting me how far I can go off the tool rest. I don't recommend making it a habit until you get some time under your belt. The closer you are to the tool rest, the more the force is going to go down into the tool rest. The further you off you are, the more possibility you can have vibration because your fulcrum comes from here, now it's here. And you see that there's quite a bit. If I just move, let's see, let's call that 2 inches, and now my fulcrum's here. It didn't change a whole lot, but here it does. So you can add vibration by being too far off. With this guy, I can't go very far. But when I have to get into the deeper spots, I have bowl gouges that are not as old. I can get a lot further in there. So, there's that. Run into trouble because I don't have a light. Oh, that might help. So I can see where I don't have a lot of shadow. Okay, so that's pretty even. Now I can take that through. I'll probably do it in 2 passes though. Rub the bevel, find the cut, there it is. Get those shavings out of there. What does that sound? Oh, maybe there's a plane flying overhead. It's really weird, odd noise. Could be jet engine noise. Alright. So I got a little bit more to go. Not much, but I can pick my cut up right there. Do it the same way. I'm going to rub that bevel and then rotate in to get that cut started. And make the cut. I hope that's not a split. Might be having a split starting here. I hope not. So I got a really clean surface in here. Now, to get, that's about as close as I'm going to get, isn't it? It's time to change to a slightly longer tool. Shavings out of there. Beautiful. All right. think I can't remember how the joke goes, but that's how you know you're wood turning when you got marks, divots and marks and scabs and scars on your elbow right here from running into that tailstock point. This guy. I'm trying to avoid that. Mav K14 says, oh, I love wood turning. Yes, I see. Wait ads. Gotcha. Dave Reif, how are wood prices? Well, the dimensional lumber, which I don't use a lot of, actually has gone up in price. Actually, I don't use a lot of it in turning. As far as building beehives and stuff like that, because I'm also a beekeeper. Yes, dimensional lumber comes into my life. But the price of dimensional lumber has gone up, so that it's no longer cost effective to make your own Langstroth hives, which is interesting and kind of a bummer because I've got all the jigs and everything made to be able to do that. I guess if which somebody has a bunch of dimensional lumber available, I've got the jigs, right? But it's now more cost effective for me to just buy the boxes already done. So not really saving any money there, and it's kind of a bummer because it's definitely indicative of a lot of other things. One of them definitely shipping and what's happening on the oceans of this planet. Not to mention all of the, I don't know how everything's going on with the tariffs anymore. It's I know that they were deemed unconstitutional by our Supreme Court here in the U.S. Don't know what all the rest of, I'm sure monies will have to be paid back and all that kind of stuff. Which I guess if they paid it to the people that actually paid the tariffs, that would be cool. But the money gets refunded to the companies who sold the products in the first place, and they pass the cost of the tariffs on to the end user. So the end user doesn't see any benefit of that, which I think is just messed up. But, it's profit-based. Okay, so that's as far as now. And I haven't checked out as far as turning blanks, but I don't usually buy turning blanks because they're already expensive. But I'm sure they've gone up. Shipping costs have gone up. I'm sure that's gone up quite a bit. So I'm not sure. I don't. How's it in Canada? I'm in a spot though. Like if I need some green wood, I've got lots of people around here who have supplies. I mean, there's lots of trees out here, and sometimes they come down. I don't cut. If there's a tree removal because it's going to be damaging a house or whatever, and I'm helping remove that tree for that I'll get the wood that way. But I don't go out to the woods and just cut all these trees down just so I have wood to turn. I have other sources to get it from, and it's almost all collected, repurposed, reused, whatever. Somebody fells a tree and they don't know what to do with the wood, and I'm going to use it for firewood if it's worth turning. I or somebody in the club might go get it. So it's pretty much free on that stuff, but scrap wood searching. Gotcha. Yeah, they've gone up a little bit here, but I've only looked at dimensional lumber because I was pricing out beehives and stuff for some of my beekeeping students, and unfortunately, it's not like it was when I started, because it's a great way to save some cash to make your own hive. But now that's not a thing. Getting close. So I've got half of it, so I'm going to stop taking it down that way. Did I just move that? Where did I move it to? Over here. A little bit of light so I can see in there. Gauge the wall thickness as I go. Okay. Beauty mess. I'm liking that. Alright. And so now this, like, I can probably move it now. Maybe flex it a little bit. It's still, it's cherry, so it's a little denser, and it is a harder wood, but I can still get a tiny bit of flex even out of that. So if I was trying to make those cuts continuously, I would eventually wind up hitting that vibration, and that would mess up that cut right at the entrance. So I don't want to go back. I don't want to have to do that. I do, though, want to take care of that corner. Yay! Okay. So now I am at this part of the curve to go in. I need to get that as close as I can get because I'm working a little deep here. Cool, man. I hit that curve just right. Nice. Okay, so I'm right down here. Oh, geez, I don't even have the camera looking down. You're looking at my washed out face. So I'm right down to right here on the inside. I just got that little bit left to go. And I am double checking my depth here because I don't want to turn it into a funnel. I go a little bit down, but that's okay. I don't need to go very far. But I think I'm at my finished depth now. Yep. And that's essentially it. I just got a little bit of cleanup here to do. Do that corner with my negative rake. That's it. Let me double check what I do with it. There it is. Let's blow that out. shavings in there. So the wall thickness is even all the way down to there. So got just a little bit more to go. I'm going to do that this way. As you notice, I did actually touch the top of this with the negative rake scraper, but I had it very much up in a shear angle and was just very lightly touching it, so I didn't have to worry about, again, the vibration. Where on a negative rake scraper doesn't necessarily care about grain direction, and that's one of the few tools you can get away with going against the grain, so to speak, because it is such a sheer cut. You know what? That's it right there. Just a little bit up in the bottom, just a touch. Just a very light pass. Feel on that again. A little bit more. Stress it a lot, but I don't know that I can stress it enough. I'm not jamming the tool into the wood. This is finesse. I am lightly getting it in there. I don't want to jam it in there. I can still get a catch with, well, it's harder to get with a negative rake scraper. With a scraper, you can definitely get a catch pretty fast by jamming it in. And that's not how you want to scrape anyway. You're just taking that solid. I'll be back. Somebody's banging around the trash cans, and I need to find out what's going on. Okay, sorry about that. Actually was weather's rolling in. It's raining right now, and it was wind blowing the cans over. I had to pick them up. Oh my God, the streak isn't adding. I don't know what you mean there, but it shows that you have, at least on this chat, 5, isn't it? Oh, and there's more. Holy cow. Nope, I'm going back. Okay, so now I'm at Mav's last comment. All right, groovy. What time we got here? 10 o'clock. Cool beans. All right, that guy's done. Oh no, I was going to make one more. That's right, I was going to make one more pass here. Because I had grabbed the flashlight and then heard that noise. It's just a little bit right there. So these are the shavings that I'm pulling. They're thin shavings. It's not a heavy cut. It's just right here, right on this very end. I think that got it. Yep, I got it. Alright, so the inside's done. Let's double check. Right there, right there. So my bottom thickness is the same as the wall thickness. So I want that continuous thickness all the way through. And that's why I'm gauging as I go. Now I don't have to go back here. This is all done. I don't have to worry about trying to hollow successively layer by layer. I went a stage down, stage down, stage down, stage down to the bottom. That was it. All controlled, and I didn't have to deal with any flexion. Okay, let's get this guy out of here. Looking at the wrong camera. Cool, let's finish that guy off. I think. Nope, wrong one. Which one did I use yesterday? What's that? Make sure this is going to fit over the chuck. It is not! Okay. And I am going to be switching things up here a little bit. We'll go with this guy if he's tall enough. If not, I got another one. Yep, good deal. Get my leather and my live center ready to go. Don't need this anymore. Or that. That'll go there. Alright, so there's a couple ways to do this too. I'm just using a jam chuck, basically. Piece of leather. You can use the shelf liner material if you want. You can use a number of things. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that this is a friction drive. So the leather is what transfers the rotational movement of this to the bolt. It's a friction drive. And now I gotta true this up, or the bottom up, and I gotta find my center. I don't have a center hole to work from because that was a tenon that I cut off. Getting close. Closer by the second. There we are. That's it. Oops. Oh, I'm messing up big time. Okay. So, the other thing is, I only want it tight enough. Is that really true? Not quite. Almost. Not quite. I gotta fix that. So I want this to be just tight enough that can't do that. And there's a fine line. There, that's it right there. Just enough to where I can't turn this by hand when the spindle's locked down. That's all I want for the hold on this. May have to go a little bit. That's the leather doing this thing. And I'm just a shade off center. Let's try that. There we go. Ooh, doggone, too high there. That leather shouldn't be creaking like that. Dog, if that ain't 202. Come on now. So you see from the camera here, I'm right on the bevel, no shavings, I'm getting no cut. Gotta slowly rotate. Now you can see shavings coming over that. Gotta slowly rotate that in there. So I want to pick the cut up right at the bottom of that foot and follow this curve. So I'm setting my bevel right there. That's the curve I need to follow, so that's where I want the bevel to point. Bring it back off the piece and go down to where I want the cut to be made. Only going as fast as the tool can cut. I hit that tenon. Dang it. Let's see what happened to the inside. Too much happened, but let's take a look anyway. Nope. Okay, good. Get this guy centered up again. There we go. Oh, you know what? I think I know what the problem is. So I can't fix that, can I? Can I? Not this time. So my jam chuck block is a little big. It could be a little bit smaller, but it's working just fine. All right, gotta find my center again. Okay, so that sound tells me that the tailstock is not tight enough. Now that sound tells me it just got to the right tension. That sound went away. Sharp corner I want to get rid of. And now the rest of this. Sand that little nub that's left. say jam chuck, that's actually my glue block. And I use that pretty often as a jam chuck too, but that's just my glue block. Or at least the latest one on that faceplate. Okay, so now I'm at the point where I can sand the bottom of this guy. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Let's see, I can't remember if I turned the compressor off. I did not. You know what? I really need to hang this back up. Got the backrest for Jameson Holland system sitting next to the lathe because I thought I might need to use it for a deeper form, and it turns out I did not. Okay. So you can grind this off with a Dremel, take it off with a chisel, do it the way I'm doing it, completely sand it off. You can turn it off if you want, you got a good hold. I do not have a hold on this that I can actually do that. Against something, there was nothing to hold the bowl in place for me to take away the tool rest and just turn off that nub. Now, let's see, I don't need that in the way. And, I think I can finally turn that one off. Alright, so that is essentially in 2.5 hours, step by step, from half a log with the bark on it to a finished bowl. Now if I didn't have to spend the time explaining all of it, which I had a piece like that last week that I just turned the whole bowl completely finished. I turned the whole bowl completely finished from a log in half an hour with finish on it. The finish was applied. That's taken a lot of practice. If it was just a rough turn bowl, you know, less than 10 minutes. If I get in a rush, 6 maybe. But that's not what this is about. This isn't a race. This is get the best possible piece out of a piece of timber that I can. And that ain't too shabby. Let me get some dust off that finish. It's got some really nice features in it. It does have some curl. It's got spalting. It's got branchlets that you can see have gone through. There's spalting happening there, right at between the heartwood and the later wood, or this is the heartwood and then the outer wood. And a little branchlet that started there and there that never made it. And there's a pin knot. Some nice curl, and yeah, this is just cherry is just fun to play with, but this is a nice piece of timber, and I wanted to get the best possible piece out of this piece of timber that I could. It could have wound up being a much smaller bowl, depending on where those, um, splits finally disappeared in the turning. If that had been, that's too much, Dave. There. Man, I guess it's raining hard. It's supposed to get some kind of freezing rain and maybe some snow tomorrow, tonight, tomorrow. I don't know. I was hoping the snow was over and done with, but it's March and this is Michigan, and must be the last hurrah. I don't know. I did look at forecast for the UP, and they're supposed to get like 3 to 6 inches of snow. I don't know about tonight, but Friday or Saturday, and then we're supposed to get a little bit from there. All right, so that, and this stuff is nice to apply by hand too. You can still apply it by hand. I'm going to do this upper rim here, and then I'm going to finish the inside with walnut oil. I need to greatly increase, well, maybe that's not right. I think what I need to do is actually create one hive in my apiary that does nothing but make me wax, because I really want to get this stuff on the market, but it's like depends on, in batches. It's like how much wax that I have. I don't want to buy beeswax when I have bees making it. And so the supplies that I've had so far of my buffing balm, Baldy's Better Buffing Balm, has been reliant on how much wax I can pull from the hives. Okay, there we are. That's it. Finished bowl. 2.5 hours, but step by step. I think that's pretty cool. And as I said before, a lot of turning goes down to beads and coves. This is a bead. This is a cove. And this is a straight. This is a V cut, but it's a straight line. That goes in there. I gotta get some of that wax out of it. So that's it. You can turn a curve, a straight line, V cut. 2 cuts. Supported cut and an unsupported cut. Supported cuts is a push cut. The unsupported cuts are a pull cut. Not necessarily, but a pull cut can also be supported, but a pull cut is usually a little kind of unsupported. And then a scrape and a shear scrape, also unsupported. Not bevel supported. So it's bevel supported cut or not bevel supported cut. Those are the only 2 cuts you can make. Yeah, anyway, going through all that, I like to go back through and as I said, practice this, make a bowl, get back to the basics, go through everything, use it as a good practice, and wind up with a nice turned object. And I think that's another one for empty bowls. So very, very cool. All right, so how are we doing here? It's about 10:30. So I think I'm not going to start another project, although I have one right here ready to go. I think I'm going to call it evening. That was really, really fun. I'm glad that you took the journey with me and got to got to follow the bouncing ball, I guess, as it is said. But I mean, it all comes down to the basics, um, and it comes down to it being a finesse kind of endeavor. You if you jam and you force and you'll struggle and get hurt. And turning doesn't have to be that way. Turning doesn't have to beat the hell out of your body. You just have to make the adjustments with your equipment, where you're going, your practice, how that stance is. Make those changes. The muscle memory will start to evolve. And then, like in my case, I can take my tool. If I got my tool rest set to the right height, I can take my tool, put it right on the rest, and go. Because the muscle memory is there. I already know where the flute is pointing. I look at it and tell if it's off or on. It doesn't matter. I want it on 45 degrees. I want the bevel pointed in the direction that I want to make the cut, and all of that is becoming more and more automatic as I go. I still want to pay attention. I don't ever want to. Oh God, I don't ever want to like not pay attention, because then things happen. It gets too automatic. And so that's why I keep coming back to practice. I want the cuts to be better, and I want my tool handling skills to be better. And one of the reasons why I started this channel is because I really love to teach wood turning. So I want the people that I teach wood turning for their turning experiences to be much more enjoyable too. So I don't want to spend the time beating myself up. I want to learn and share all the things that make turning fun. And this particular venue gives me the perfect opportunity. When I send these videos to YouTube, I do not edit them, and I don't want to. And the reason for that is because this is live stream. I want everybody to see everything that goes on. I don't want to edit out me getting a catch. It does occasionally happen. I don't want to edit out making a mistake. I don't want to edit out a piece blowing apart on the lathe. I want people to see what it actually takes, and what things could possibly happen, because this is a dangerous thing to do. Like a lot of hobbies they have some danger element to them, but this is a rotating piece of equipment, and if you lose your sense of where you are, you can get pulled in, and then it's no longer a fun time. It is instantaneously a not fun time, and I want to help people avoid that. And so that's why I teach the way that I do. A lot of it my first mentor was Lyle Jameson, and safety is a big deal, but his biggest thing was control. They'll tell you, at least he used to anyway, tell people that he's a huge control freak. And it turns out I kind of am too. Some of it I picked up in the service, some of it I didn't. But I get to use the lathe as that outlet for the most part. I try not to have that in the rest of my life, but at least here at the lathe, that control, it has its place. And so I want to practice that, and I try to impart that to the people that I work with. You want to practice that. You want to get that control. The more control you have, you work with sharp tools, controlled speed, controlled cut, pleasant experience. Pleasant, nice piece that gets turned. That's just the way it goes. You have to give yourself, though, the time to do it, and the permission to make mistakes, because you're going to. Even professional turners who've been turning longer than me make mistakes. It happens. Sometimes you're at the lathe too long, maybe. It's happened to me. And you start to lose that focus and get a little foggy. That's why I'm usually one of the first ones to say, I'm getting foggy. It's time for me to step away. Because I don't want to play those games. I don't want to get hung up in a piece of equipment that's not going to let me go. I've got the e-stop right here, but that's not the first thing you're going to think of, really. The first thing when you get twisted up in a lathe is, oh my God, that fucking hurts. And you're trying to jerk things out. You're not necessarily thinking about slapping a button. I've got the buttons here for that reason, but trying to mitigate all of that way ahead of time, choosing my wood, um, taking stock of the thing, whatever the equipment material is as I'm turning, taking stock as I'm going. If I know that it has features that I don't want in it, like in this case it had a lot of splits, I had to turn those away. So I had to take my time to get that shape and then follow that shape down until I got rid of the splits. As I said, I could have went with a much smaller diameter bowl. It could have happened, and I would have been okay with that because I wanted to get, as I always do, the best possible piece out of a piece of timber that I can get if the timber is turnable. And I want to do it in the safest way possible. So I want to impart to you that, of course, I want you to explore and I want you to have a blast. Learn as much as you can. Practice, practice, practice. But don't get so caught up in it that you get pissed off because you made a mistake. Because this grows on trees. I get a little upset sometimes too, but like I say, I try to mitigate all those issues ahead of time. And then all I have to do is flow with it when I get that headspace in the right spot. So, having said all that, I'm going to wrap up the broadcast this evening. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me this evening. Paranoid Squatch, hey, to Mav gave a nice thanks, dude. Hey, glad you're here. I hope you saw my message about your radio. I don't even know what they call those things anymore. It was the entertainment center of the day, except it didn't have television or a phonograph, so it was a radio shortwave on it. Anyway, I hope you got those texts. Yeah, so thank you very much for the support, for joining me this evening, for following, subscriptions. I am very glad that you find value in this channel and you keep coming back. And I will continue to improve the quality of all this and bringing new content all the time. I roll back to where I was saying that I don't edit what I put on YouTube. And for a reason for that, as I said before, I want everybody to see what's going on, what happens when. I don't want to edit out anything because it's live, it's real life. I don't want to make it look like it's something that it's not. Do I have a lot of things blow up on the lathe and things crash and blah, blah, blah? Not really. It happens, but I don't have it happen anywhere near as much as I used to when I was a new turner. Until I learned a lot of these things, checking in on your wood, making sure you're choosing the best possible wood you can in the first place, getting rid of any splits, cracks, if you, all the stuff, just all the stuff. And it takes time to get there. So give yourself the permission to take that time. You'll only benefit yourself. That's, if you take the time, the worst thing that could happen is that you get better. Is that bad? I don't think so. I don't think so. So go forth and turn. I hope that you have a lovely rest of your evening. I'm going to wrap this up now. I hope to see you tomorrow evening, scheduled to go 8 to 11 Eastern Standard. I'm assuming that the weather is going to mostly cooperate, so we'll see what happens. But I do plan on being here again tomorrow evening. Normally stream Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 8 to 11 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining me. Hope to see you again real soon. Good night, everybody.